Why heat makes elephants attack. Survival secrets revealed. Elephants cannot sweat like we do, so their enormous bodies trap heat. Their only defense? Their ears. Each ear contains thousands of blood vessels, a natural radiator. By flapping them, hot blood cools by up to 9 degrees Celsius. But when this system fails, body temperature skyrockets. And that's when a calm giant becomes terrifyingly unpredictable. Terrifying true survival stories. India, the funeral encounter. Why would an elephant attack a funeral gathering? Because its brain, overheated and impaired, pushed it into panic mode. It was a sweltering afternoon in rural India. The kind where the air feels like boiling water pressing against your skin. The villagers were gathered for a funeral, their chants carrying softly into the humid sky. But out of the tree line, a giant shadow appeared. An elephant, its ears beating furiously, its eyes glazed with exhaustion, stumbled into the gathering. At first, the people froze, believing the animal might simply pass through. But heat stress had already clouded its brain. Its body was running too hot, its survival instincts distorted. The elephant's trunk swung violently, its head lowered, and the crowd scattered in terror. They waited until the animal passed by out of sight. When they felt safe, they began the funeral ceremony again. But moments later, the chaos grew worse. The same elephant returned more agitated than before, as if the rising heat had reignited its rage. The story of that day still echoes in whispers. Not because the elephant came back, but because its overheated body left it in a permanent state of panic. Botswana, the safari attack. The African sun beat down mercilessly. Tourists sat in an open-top safari truck. They had their cameras ready, expecting to see and photograph a herd of elephants that lived wild and free in the savannah. But one elephant wasn't calm. Its ears moved like frantic fans. Its trunk twitched. Its massive body shifted in restless agitation. The guide recognized unease, but before he could back away, the elephant charged. 12,000 pounds of muscle slammed into the truck. The vehicle rocked violently. Screams pierced the air. Another impact. Then another. Bits of metal shattered. Cameras dropped. Some tourists ducked beneath their seats, others clung to each other, praying the metal cage would hold. And then, sudden silence. The elephant stopped, ears still hammering like drum beats. The animal did not stop because it wanted to. It was finished because exhaustion forced it to retreat. That group survived, but only because the animal's body gave out before its rage did. Nigeria, the man who lay still. Alone in the bush, a man suddenly found himself surrounded. Not by one elephant, but by 4. The heat shimmered across the ground, distorting their shapes like monsters in a mirage. Each elephant's ears flapped with desperate intensity, their bodies twitching in distress. The man knew one wrong move would trigger disaster. So he lay down. Still. Silent. Completely motionless. Minutes dragged by like hours. Ants crawled across his arms. Sweat pooled beneath his back. The urge to swat, to scratch, to run was unbearable. One elephant lowered its trunk, hovering inches from his chest, as if testing for life. His heart thundered in his ears, but he did not flinch. 3 hours passed. The sun dipped lower. And finally the elephants wandered off, still flapping, still restless, but too distracted by their own misery to notice him anymore. His survival was not due to strength, but because he knew he had to stay still. Thailand, the bath gone wrong. A tourist believed she was sharing a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Bathing an elephant in a shallow river, brushing its skin, laughing at its playful splashes. But the day was scorching. The elephant's ears beat like frantic fans. Its breathing grew rapid. Its skin twitched in irritation. Then, without warning, the animal's behavior shifted. The playful trunk became a weapon. The splashes turned violent. The tourist scrambled, water dragging at her legs, while the elephant's movements churned the river into chaos. Guides screamed instructions, waving, shouting, trying to divert the elephant's attention. Finally, they drove it away with food and noise. But the tourist never forgot how quickly a gentle bath turned into a nightmare of thrashing water and fury. She learned the hardest truth of all: even the friendliest elephant can become dangerous when heat hijacks its mind. These stories prove one thing: when the ears fail, elephants become some of the most dangerous animals on Earth. When heat turns them crazy. When the temperature gets above 31 degrees Celsius, 88 degrees Fahrenheit, elephants can lose control. Their massive brains, once boiling, short-circuit survival instincts. Anatomy of aggression. African elephants have ears shaped like the continent itself, up to 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide. Asian elephants, though, have much smaller, rounded ears. But here's the danger: the bigger the ears, the more cooling required. That means African elephants panic faster when extreme heat overwhelms them. Think about this: an elephant's ear surface area equals 20% of its entire body. That's like humans having ears the size of car doors. Blood vessels in those ears sit just beneath the skin. Hot blood flows in, cools down, then flows back to the body. But when the air itself is hotter than the elephant's body, this system collapses. The brain overheats. And suddenly, the gentle giant becomes a rampaging force of nature. Climate crisis and rising risk. Global temperatures are rising every year. In 2023, heat-related elephant incidents spiked 40% worldwide. Wildfires force elephants closer to villages. Rivers dry up, leaving them desperate for water. Protected reserves, once safe, are now too hot to provide relief. So elephants travel further, stumbling into human territory. And every step in heat stress increases the chance of violence. Imagine walking outside in 45 degrees Celsius heat with no shade, no water, and no ability to sweat. Now imagine carrying 12,000 pounds of body mass. That's the daily struggle of elephants across Asia and Africa. Warning signs you must know. How can you tell when an elephant is overheating? Rapid ear flapping over 15 times per minute. Trunk curled up, pressing against the mouth. Refusing to move, standing frozen in shade. Dust or mud baths, desperate attempts to cool skin. Sudden aggression toward vehicles, humans, even other elephants. If you see these signs, stay away. Safari guides are trained to watch for these signals. Tourists often aren't. That's why many encounters turn tragic. In Kenya, the guide who saved 12 lives relied entirely on spotting these subtle cues. Had he ignored them, that group would have faced a far darker outcome. The truth behind the rage. So why do overheated elephants attack? Because their very survival depends on their ears. When their cooling system fails, their bodies overheat, their brains lose control, and instinct takes over. These are not cruel or malicious animals. They are giants fighting for life in a world growing hotter by the year. And as climate change worsens, encounters like these will only increase. So remember, if you ever see an elephant with frantic ears, dust flying, and agitation in its movements, do not approach. Respect the warning signs. Respect their struggle. And respect the giants of the wild. Now you know the shocking truth about why elephants attack when overheated. Would you have survived the 3-hour standoff in Nigeria? Or recognized the frantic signals in Botswana? Tell me in the comments, what would you have done? And don't forget to subscribe for more real, shocking animal survival stories, because the wild never forgives mistakes.